to dreary, not really dreary to me because I love this kind of weather, but it's a foggy, rainy day, and I thought it's the perfect time to whip up some authentic Irish shepherd's pie using our ground lamb. So we are going to get started on that. Perfect comfort meal for this type of weather. So let's get started on that. We are going to get going on the potato topping first. Now this recipe calls for 6 cups. I don't know that this is going to be 6 cups, but I want to use up the rest of my potatoes. And then I do have instant potatoes on hand, so I will just make up a little small batch of instant potatoes if I need to make sure that I have 6 cups. Give these a good rinse, chop these up, and we're going to get these boiling so we can move on to the filling part of the shepherd's pie. So I'm just getting our onion chopped up here, and this recipe also calls for 3 to 4 large chopped up carrots. And I am so excited because I have my own canned carrots. I did this, well, I did it last year, August of last year, so this has been on my shelf a little over a year. I had extra carrots in my refrigerator. These were actually store-bought carrots. And I thought they were possibly getting ready to go bad, so I chopped them and canned them up, and I'm telling you, this kind of stuff is perfect for these types of recipes: soups, stews, a shepherd's pie. So normally in this recipe you would need to chop your carrots and then you have to let them saute for a while to get them softened before you add your onion, but these carrots are already nice and soft, so I'm going to probably get the onion going first, and then I'll add in the carrots for just a minute, and then we will go to the next step. So now we're just going to add in some olive oil. We have this pan preheating, so we're going to get our onions sauteing. And we are going to give these a few minutes to soften before I add in the carrots. Okay, we've given these onions a few minutes to kind of start to soften up. I'm going to add in our carrots, and I did drain this out first. And we're going to let this just sit in here with the onions for a few minutes just to take on some of that flavor, maybe get a little color, let those onions soften a little bit more. Now that we've let this go for a little bit and get softened up, we are going to add in our ground lamb, which I am so excited for this recipe. I love shepherd's pie. I've made it several times, but I've never made it with ground lamb. Because that's the first time I've seen it in the grocery, well, at least in Aldi, like that. So I'm really excited to see how this turns out with the ground lamb. So I'm going to kind of break this up. Probably need to get my meat masher out. It's okay if I mash up a couple of carrots and onions. I'm not worried about that. Just want to get this meat kind of chopped up a little more finely. To this, we're going to add some fresh black pepper. Sprinkle that on. And it calls for fresh thyme. Now I do have my little fresh thyme plant here, but it's looking kind of sad because I've clipped so much off of it. I think I'm going to go with dried thyme. Crush it up in my hand a little bit. This all in. Already smells wonderful, especially when I put that thyme in there. Oh my goodness. Maybe just a smidgen more. We're going to let this meat to get browned up. So this is cooked through, and it says we are to drain off the fat. I'm going to try this little hack I keep seeing everyone else do. Let me see how this works. So you just take a paper towel with your tongs and kind of just let that soak up the excess grease so you don't have to drain it. I don't know. I think there's quite a bit of grease in here. Maybe you should do that like when there's not a ton of grease. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's not that much more. Let me try it again. Let me get another. Let's try it one more time. Okay, I guess that worked pretty well, so I didn't have to dump it out in another container. So now that I've sopped up a lot of that grease, you know what? I feel like, the recipe didn't say, but I'm going to add some salt. I'm going to go ahead and add some salt, and I'm almost wanting to add, and I think I'm going to add some rosemary. I think thyme and rosemary in this will be delicious. So I am deviating. I'm deviating off of the original recipe, but it's the beauty of cooking at home. You can do it however you want. And I think thyme and rosemary go well with lamb. Anyways, so now I put a little salt. I already love the aroma coming off of that rosemary now. So now we're going to add a tablespoon of butter. Tablespoon of butter and about a cup of peas, frozen peas. So eyeball that. It's about good. I like lots of peas, so I don't care if that's a little bit more than what it calls for. I want to get that butter melted in good. And then we're going to add our flour. I'm going to sprinkle in some flour. Stir this all around. Now to this we're going to add a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. A little stir. It says to add a cup of red wine. So this is going to help deglaze our pan, get up the brown bits from the bottom. The alcohol will cook out and we'll just be left with a wonderful, richer flavor. So we're getting all those yummy brown bits off the bottom. It smells so good. It really does. And we are also going to add in some Worcestershire sauce to deepen that flavor. Give this a stir. Oh, that smells so good. So now we've let this reduce down a little bit, which did not take long. It says to add 1 cup of stock. So I am doing some of my homemade chicken stock. Now I had this in the freezer. And I usually love to have it pressure canned on my shelf. So what we're looking for is a nice meaty gravy kind of, we want this to thicken up a little bit more. But I like to have my chicken stock canned on my shelf. The last batch that I made, I just put in the freezer, which is fine because I didn't have time to really go through the canning process. But then you have to remember typically to take that out of the freezer if you know you're going to need it for a recipe, and I don't usually remember to do that. So the genius thing that I did, last time I used up the rest of the stock that was in my refrigerator, I just immediately pulled this jar out of my freezer and just let it sit in my fridge because I knew relatively quickly I would be needing another jar of chicken stock. So that was a huge time saver for me because as I decided to make this recipe today, I was sitting there thinking, oh no, I have to pull out a jar of my frozen chicken stock. Is it going to be ready in time? And then I remembered I already did it a couple days ago. So it was ready to go. Okay, so this is thickening up beautifully. And now I am going to taste this and see if I want to adjust any of the seasonings. Let's give this a taste. I tell you, the flavor from that lamb is a game changer. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm gonna add some more salt. That is really good. And I think I'm gonna add some more thyme. And even a little bit more black pepper. I'll tell you too, that red wine that we use to deglaze the pan, I think that just really added a beautiful depth of flavor, a richness to this. Now, if you don't want to use red wine or any kind of wine, or you don't have any or whatever, you can just, use additional stock, any kind of stock, vegetable, chicken stock, whatever you have on hand. But I really like the additional flavor that it lended. So I'm gonna give this another taste. I think that's perfect. So I have greased two baking dishes. Now, obviously, if you had a 9x13 or, a bigger oval baking dish, I clearly really need to up my baking dish game because these are like the only baking dishes I have. So I need to get more. I need to get some bigger ones. So I'm going to split this filling in between both of these. Or you know what? Never mind. Nope, it will fit in this pie dish. Perfect. So the recipe said to use a 9x13 or a big oval dish, but I don't know how this is filling up a 9x13 unless you just want a really thin layer. I think you would have to double this recipe, in my opinion, to fill up a 9x13, but it works perfectly in here. So now I'm going to get the mashed potatoes on top. Now I need to carefully smooth this out. Maybe this is why you need a bigger baking dish, because these mashed potatoes do kind of sink in there a little bit. Well, and I don't have these like super whipped up and creamy. My little hand mixer broke recently, so I'm trying to do this by hand, and I don't even have a proper potato masher. Yes, I have several items I need to get, but let me see how I can get this spread around in here without making this totally overflow. Okay, this is going to be super rustic. I'm going to have to put something underneath this while it's baking because I have a feeling some of this may bubble out. So let's get our Parmesan cheese on top. So the recipe says to brush with an egg and then put your cheese on top. I don't even have like my little silicone brush thing. I don't know. I've lost a bunch of stuff when I moved, so I'm not going to do the egg thing. I'm just going to sprinkle this Parmesan cheese over the top, and I'm super excited about this. I've never put Parmesan cheese as the cheese on top of my shepherd's pie, so I think this is just going to be delicious. Put it way over the top. And then just because it looks beautiful, this recipe doesn't call for this, but I'm going to put some some dried parsley on top because it looks so pretty. Look at that. All right, this is going to bake in the oven, and when I pull it out, we're going to let it cool for a moment, and then we're going to give it a taste test. Oh my goodness, I just pulled this out of the oven. Yes, it was spilling over. Thankfully, I had a pan underneath to catch all of that. This looks delicious. So, feels like a nice crust on top. You know what? Part of me is almost tempted. Ooh, should I? If this was not so full, what I would do is actually put this back in under the broiler for just like a minute or so to really brown up the top. There is some browning on the top, which looks really good, but because this is so full, I don't want to have to move it again back into the oven. So I'm going to let this cool for just a little bit, and then we are going to dig in and give this a try. Okay. Our authentic Irish shepherd's pie is done. It looks stunning. Looks so good. Should probably let this cool off a little bit more, but I can't. I just can't wait. I have to give this a taste. Oh my gosh. That is so delicious. Full of flavor. If you've never had lamb before, it's got its own distinct flavor. It's definitely something you could differentiate. If you've never had it, say you've had shepherd's pie but always with ground beef, and then you had it with lamb, you would notice there's a difference. Like, what is that difference? And it's, number one, the lamb. Lamb to me has a fresh, grassy taste almost. It's a little bit of a gamey flavor, but it's not overpowering, and I think it's very important when you're working with a more gamey type meat like that you season it properly. So I love the extra time, and then I added the rosemary into this. I'm really glad that I did that. You know, next time I think I would add some garlic too, even saute some fresh garlic with those onions and carrots. That would be really good with this too, but the flavor is outstanding. It's so rich and deep from the lamb and the red wine that we used to deglaze the pan. The Parmesan cheese that we used on top of the potatoes, spot on. That just adds another additional depth of flavor that it just complements this whole dish so well. I can't wait just to polish off the rest of my bowl here. I'm starving, and this is just perfect comfort meal on a rainy, foggy afternoon. Thank you so much for spending time with me today in this kitchen, making this delicious comfort meal. If you like this video, I hope that you will give me a thumbs up, that you'll share it with other people that you think may like this content. And I look forward to seeing you guys very soon. Take care. Bye.